Hello, my name is Ella Sutton and I give permission for this video to be used by central staff and freelance audition panellists as appropriate. For my classical monologue, I'll be performing Lady Elizabeth Percy from Henry IV Part 2. Oh, yet, for God's sake, go not to these wars. The time was, Father, that you broke your word, when you were more endeared to it than now, when your own Percy, when my heart, dear Harry, through many a northward look to see his father bring up his powers, but he did long in vain. Who then persuaded you to stay at home? There were two honours lost, yours and your son's. For yours, the God of heaven brighten it. For his, it stuck upon him as the sun in the grey vault of heaven, and by his light did all the chivalry of England move to do brave acts. He was indeed the glass wherein the noble youth did dress themselves. He had no legs that practised not his gait, and speaking thick, which nature made his blemish, became the accent of the valiant. For those that could speak low and tardily would turn their own perfections to abuse, to seem like him, so that in speech, in gait, in diet, in affections of delight, in military rules, humours of blood, he was the mark and glass, copy and book that fashioned others. And him, oh wondrous him, oh miracle of men, him did you leave, second to none, unseconded by you, to look upon the hideous god of war in disadvantage, to abide a field where nothing but the sound of Hotspur's name did seem defensible, so you left him. Oh, yet for God's sake, go not to these wars. The time was, Father, that you broke your word, when you were more endeared to it than now, when your own Percy, when my heart's dear Harry, through many a northward look to see his father bring up his powers. But he did long in vain. Who then persuaded you to stay at home? There were two honours lost, yours and your son's. For yours, the God of heaven brighten it. For his, it stuck upon him as the sun in the grey vault of heaven, and by his light did all the chivalry of England move to do brave acts. He was indeed the glass wherein the noble youth did dress themselves. He had no legs that practised not his gait, and speaking thick, which nature made his blemish, became the accent of the valiant. For those that could speak low and tardily would turn their own perfections to abuse, to seem like him, so that in speech, in gait, in diet, in affections of delight, in military rules, humours of blood, he was the mark and glass, copy and book that fashioned others. And him, oh wondrous him, oh miracle of men, him did you leave, second to none, unseconded by you, to look upon the hideous god of war in disadvantage, to abide a field where nothing but the sound of Hotspur's name did seem defensible, so you left him. So while preparing this monologue, I took two contrasting approaches by altering the given circumstances. So the first, I went for, I guess you could say, a more authentic Shakespearean approach, the idea that Shakespeare would have given them these given circumstances at the time he was writing the play. So Lady Elizabeth Percy is talking to the Earl of Northumberland and begging him not to go to war. She's going, what are you doing? It's not going to make any difference if you go. I've already lost my husband, which I blame you for, by the way, because you didn't give him the soldiers he needed and you didn't give him the resources he needed. But that doesn't mean I don't want you to be safe. I still care about you. You're still my family. Contrasting to this, my second approach, I decided I'd make it a more current issue. So I used the idea that the Earl of Northumberland might be a doctor fighting on the front line of the coronavirus pandemic, saving lives. So I feel there would be much more of an internal conflict. Lady Elizabeth Percy would be more confused in this sense because she's going, well, I want him to be safe and I want him to be with us, but if he's going to do good and he's going to help our country amongst this massive pandemic, then how am I entitled to tell him he can't go? She talks about the chivalry of England. She talks about England coming together as a union, but she's telling him he can't go fight evil. Whereas in the first, she's being a lot more single-minded. She's going, it's not going to make any difference. This is your fault. You let him die, so why are you going to put yourself at risk? Because I can't afford to lose another person.